this is Communication Hack. I'm Joshua Weiss.
I'm Tim Jones.
And you can always find us at communicationhack.com. Today, we're going to continue our discussion on story as a communication hack. I know sometimes people have a gift of storytelling. They can tell stories with the best of them. And no matter where you're finding them or where you're engaging in conversation with them, they're going to go into a story of some kind and you're going to be entertained by their stories, even if they're kind of funny stories. And then other times you hear people kind of tell a story and it just flops. It's like, that was not good. So what are the different elements? And this might seem elementary, but let's talk elementary because maybe there are those that don't really get some of these elementary things with regards to storytelling. What are some elementary storytelling things that you would say this is what makes up a good story and why it makes up a good story?
Elementary, my dear Watson. Yes, the story is it definitely has some roots and it has some basic structures that you could follow. There's a whole concept of a beat sheet and certain segments and this many minutes you should hit this beat and so on and so forth. I won't go into all that. So
are we saying that we need to, every time we're having a conversation with somebody, we need to have our pad there so we can write down on the beat sheet?
Yes, absolutely. And you go through it. No, that's what I'm saying. I won't get into all that. That's for much longer form content. But in the terms of story, one of the most important concepts to keep in mind is it needs to be relatable and it needs to be something that the audience can sink their teeth into, so to speak. I have a friend from college who would tell me these really long stories, and then at the end it'd be like, and that's why I didn't hit the cone. It's like, what? I was just left there. I was like, why are you telling me this whole thing to tell me about a traffic cone that you saw the other day? It didn't make sense. So the story has to make the audience care. If your audience doesn't care about the story, then they're not going to watch.
It's almost like you've got one of those dot drawings, you've got to connect the dots and you're going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, and by the end it creates a picture. And if you're not making sure all the dots actually are part of the picture, you're kind of why have the dot in there?
Yeah, a lot of people will say your endings, don't make your endings unpredictable or predictable or things like that. But even that might be the case, the audience is still expecting certain things to happen. So if we go through an entire movie and then suddenly aliens come out of the sky and kill your love interest, I thought we were watching a romance movie, what just happened? So keeping in mind the flow of the story from beginning to end, knowing that your story, as soon as you start writing it, there's certain things that you can no longer go to. You can't say a meteor falls out of the sky and kills everyone, because then that's disappointing. You've left your audience wanting more.
So that right there, that's an extreme example. If you're writing a romance, you know that you're not going to then throw in a meteor falling out of the sky. Or if I'm telling a story over dinner at a restaurant, I'm not going to all of a sudden say. Give us some examples of maybe some things that people do that they might not realize are, okay, that passed the line.
Yeah, so the best example I could think of, just in terms of a story, was there was this movie that came out called The Internship with Anne Hathaway and I believe it was Robert De Niro. And this entire movie is set up as this female CEO of this company who's overworked. She's trying to spend time with her kid and spend time with her husband, and she can't make ends meet. And then this elderly gentleman takes an internship with her company because he's retired. He doesn't need the money, but he needs something to do. So he starts working in the company, and he starts teaching her these lessons, these life lessons on how to connect with people and how you should manage your stuff. And he's really being a really stand-up guy to this lady. And throughout the movie, you're like, oh, she's gonna learn a good lesson, and she's going to learn that she really should cut back if she's going to be able to help her family and stuff. But at the end of the movie, she not only rejects that idea, but says, I'll just have to work harder to make these things happen. And I was so disappointed by that ending because she didn't learn a lesson, and she learned something that was wrong, because you can't just work harder to try and make these things happen. You should find a way to cut back, because if she started off as overworked and instead of finding a way to not be overworked, she's like, I'll just be even more overworked. So knowing the arc of your story is very important in that respect.
When people are telling stories and they oversell the background of the story, or they take too long to get to the punch of the story, or they get to the punch and then they keep going, like they let it carry on too long after it's like, okay, the impact is there. If you don't learn when to stop and just set the mic down or whatever you're doing, you're going to really impact your story negatively. Understanding the arc is really important.
Yeah, there's several examples, I mean, throughout any kind of film where the story could be really, really good, but it was either oversold or it was undersold, but people just won't go and see it. They won't come and watch it. I had a friend in high school who was really good at telling stories, and he would just engulf us in these comedic stories, and then they would just kind of like end. He's like, and then that's what happened. He didn't know how to end it, but he had us laughing the entire time. And then he's like,
didn't know how to
whatever.
get out. Yeah, there was a friend in college that they would do those stories, and at the end they didn't know how to end, so they would just say, and then I found $5.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, this has been Communication Hack. You can find us at communicationhack.com. I'm Joshua Weiss. You can find me at Joshua D. Weiss.
I'm Tim Jones. You can find $5 at my Instagram page at @TLJonesy_.
Come back next time.